Hello and welcome to our next episode of Getting to Know United in Christ. Today, I am excited to be joined by United in Christ member Cami, who has, you say hi to the folks, Cami. I got to learn how to do introductions.
Hi, folks.
Hi, folks. Cami has been a large part of the life of the congregation for the past couple of years, especially as her recent role as church council president, just finishing up that term at the turn of the year. And has kind of transitioned that role into being the church council secretary now. So it just seems you can't get away from those positions, huh, Cami?
I enjoy doing it. I really do.
I'm really glad you do, because it makes a lot of our lives a lot easier. But so tell me, Cami, you have been here obviously as long as I have. How long have you been a member here at United in Christ?
Over half a century.
Wow. Now that's a
Actually,
badge you can wear to worship.
yeah. Um, One of the former congregations, because we are a merged congregation from years ago, my grandparents and all my cousins and my uncles, and we all went to the New Columbia building. So I started there as an infant.
So you're one of the
And
cradle Lutherans for this area.
I am.
Ah.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, there was a period of time where I kind of stepped away from church for a while, those teenage angst years where you're kind of searching out what you want. Plus, my parents had gone through divorce
Mm.
and it just wasn't family anymore going to church. But through that transition, and when I was in college, and I think I may have shared this story with you, but my college roommate wanted to go to an Ash Wednesday
Yeah.
service. And when I went to the service as a college student, hadn't been in a church in years, there were college students actively participating. And I thought, this is kind of cool. I think I miss this.
Yeah.
And over the years, too, I was very active at Camp Mount Luther as a camper, and then also later serving on the board. It just really impressed me that something was missing in my life. So
Mm.
I went to a number of different churches. I went to other denominations, other Lutheran churches. And when I came back, it was like home. It
Mm.
was like family. So let me tell you that this whole thing about being away from our family is difficult for me.
Oh, yeah. Let's name
And
it. It sucks, doesn't it?
yeah, and as we struggled with it on Tuesday night at our council
Yeah.
meeting, people don't want to be away from each other. They enjoy coming together and being church together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As I think I shared with folks in the live video right after that meeting, that was certainly the longest meeting that I've been a part of with this council in a long time.
Yeah,
As our co-president Emma was quick to point out, we were pushing 2.5 hours. But that's
yeah,
because exactly what you said, right? The value of this community in being together is such a high priority, and justifiably so, understandably so, that it's almost inconceivable to be apart, right? Uh, uh,
right.
and so that's why we're doing this. But B, it's why I'm grateful for folks like you who are helping to maintain that continuity of community, even in the midst of physical distancing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and you know what that feels like, right? It sounds like, at least from what you've said and the stories you've told me, right, that you had that period away from the church for a little while, and sometimes you don't realize it until you go back, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
so when was that you came back to United in Christ, or to New Columbia at the time?
Yeah, it was New Columbia still. I came back when I had my daughters
Mm,
because I wanted them to be raised in the church.
sure, sure.
And then again, this is why this church means so much to me. When I went through my own
Mm,
divorce, people walked up to me and asked, how was I doing?
yeah,
You know, it was a very difficult time for me.
sure.
I failed as a Christian, I felt,
Mm,
because my marriage didn't last,
mm,
but still people came forward and asked and cared about me.
yeah,
So that just meant so much.
yeah,
And and sometimes it's hard for me to tell that story without getting choked up because it
sure.
really meant a lot that this family supported me in a very difficult time.
Yeah, and I appreciate your willingness to share that story. But what it does is it names what the true gifts of being a community are, right? That
Mhm.
support not just when times are good, not just to laugh with one another when things are going well, but when things feel like they've hit rock bottom in a lot of ways, to be there for one another, to lift one another up, and to just keep showing up, right? Yeah, which again makes this period as difficult as it is. It's because that's the gift that we're partly missing out on, right? So obviously, this community has meant a tremendous amount over the years, right? There's got to be reasons that keep you coming back, right? Because at this point, your daughters are grown and now they are connected in their own communities. So what is it for you? What is it that keeps you bringing you back to this place? What is it that keeps you excited about this community? If in fact you are wearing the badge that says you've been there over half a century now, what keeps it fresh and alive?
I think it's just that each and every week we keep telling the good news of the gospel lessons that Jesus spoke to us. And I can remember my mom saying she needed church to help her get through the week.
Yeah.
I need that sometimes. And sometimes I don't know that I need it.
Right.
But then I come and I hear the message, I have the fellowship, and I'm so grateful that we have church.
Right.
And that we can come together as a community and worship.
Bingo. I think that's beautiful, because I think a lot of times churches are so busy trying to find the silver bullet, right, of what keeps folks engaged, what keeps them coming back, and you named it well, right? It's just the good news. The good news that Jesus is here for you and loves you and is providing a way of life for you, and then the chance to get to live that out for the people around us, right, and show it to folks. Man, that's cool. What a good recipe. Yeah, it's almost as if you know how a lot of this church stuff works. Sometimes, yeah. Well, she's Cami, I think, is of course also being coy at the moment, because you do a tremendous amount of work engaging with the Upper Susquehanna Synod, to which our congregation belongs, right? And what about that is life-giving for you? What about that relationship between the congregation and the Synod excites you and keeps you engaged? I see you at every Synod assembly helping lead worship. I hear that you're on committees that, like, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near, because it would probably bore my mind out, right? Like, so you're doing things that, like, are a gift to the church that oftentimes people aren't in tune with to even step up to. So what is it for you that keeps you plugged in that larger aspect of the church?
It's another opportunity to gather with people and worship.
It's just that easy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's for me. I mean, being at the church-wide, in Milwaukee last year.
Yeah.
Being at Susquehanna University every summer, possibly fall this year, depending on
we'll see.
The conditions.
Yep.
Being together with the other church leaders when we did the Church Leaders Day.
Absolutely.
So that we can come together and share ideas of best practices, if you want to call it that, or just how we can lift the church and lift others as leaders of the church.
That's really great. And I appreciate the ways you have stepped up as a leader within this church. And again, for folks at home, who she mentioned it, but Cami represented not just our congregation, but the entire synod in 2019 in August, right, out in Milwaukee for the tri-annual national gathering of the ELCA to vote on important matters of the church.
I was so honored to have that opportunity, and it was fantastic.
I'm glad. Yeah. We were glad to have you representing us. I felt good sending you on for that journey. That's very cool. So clearly there's a lot of things that get you excited, and I'm really grateful for that, because that's what keeps us energized and motivated. But when the rubber meets the road, for us and for this congregation, as we seek to try to be community, even in the midst of all of this, I think it's helpful for us to be looking ahead yet, right? For the days when we get back together. So what is it for you? What are your hopes and your dreams and your aspirations? Where do you see God calling this community in the days or years ahead? What are your hopes for this congregation?
I love the fact that this congregation is willing to try new things. We try new things all the time. This is something that we've never had to try to do before, being the church while being socially distant from one another.
Yeah.
We're just, if you feel the love and the good news that God is preaching, and well, not God's preaching, but that we learn about through the stories of the Bible.
Yeah.
I'm excited about where God's going to lead us next. Church may look different. Synod struggles with the number of declining church sizes.
Sure.
Well, this is what our church looks like today at this time. Who knows what the future is going to look like, but we can still all be church. We can be church for one another. We can be church together in new ways.
That's awesome. I want everyone to know I didn't pay her to say any of that. Cami's just very much tuned into this. And I think that's exactly it. I think that is one of the gifts of this congregation as well, is that they engage in the work of faithful experimentation, right? You all in this community are very good at saying, hey, let's throw some spaghetti, see what works, and find out what's holy in the mess of it, right? And that's been a very cool thing. And I got to say, it's energizing and exciting for me to watch that take place with y'all. I'm very grateful for that gift within this community, and that you help kind of pave the way for. So that's awesome. Thank you. All right. So as a final closing thoughts, I know that we've spent a lot of time talking about church, and I know that you've got a whole lot going on within the church, and you plug into the church in all sorts of ways. But what is it outside of church that keeps you energized? What outside of church helps you find and foster community? What do you look forward to outside of things like worship and the community gatherings we have?
I love to share my gifts, whether it's within different communities, within the church, the committees, serving on council, whatever it might be. But I also serve in different volunteer organizations, nonprofits, the Lions and so forth. Yeah. And my day starts and my drive home from work. When I was driving to work, I'm currently work from home, but it was listening to a radio station that's always positive and uplifting. And if anybody wants to know what it is, I'll plug it. It's called K-Love.
There you go. Yes. Yeah.
It's all contemporary, upbeat, positive, encouraging music that just fills my day on my drive to work and on my drive home. And sometimes I listen to it at work as well.
Cool.
With my headset. But it just fills my whole inner that I want to share that happiness with other people.
Cool.
Whether it's serving by helping or whether it's just being a more positive person, just always making people feel wanted and loved, because that's what I hear in church all the time. That's what I hear in the music.
That's awesome. And that's it, right? Like if there's any calling, it's to make sure that we know that we are conveying that message of love to the people around us. So that's a beautiful thing. I love it. Thank you, Cami, and thank you for taking the time. I hope y'all can continue tuning in. We've got some really cool and exciting guests lined up for the rest of the week. I'm going to keep them under wraps because it's a surprise that's worth tuning back in for this week. And I'll be excited to share those with you. And please, if you've got questions of members of United in Christ that you want to hear, rather than just the questions that I can come up with, drop them in the comments, let me know, and I'll be sure to ask them. Maybe just a couple of off-the-wall questions for our UIC folks, I think, are in order to keep them engaged. And so we'll be happy to pose those. But Cami, if there's anything else that I didn't ask, what's one parting thing you'd want to leave with the congregation? One thing about you, one aspect of you that we didn't even get to address that you feel like is important to who you are that we didn't get around to today?
If I could reach through this computer and I could hug each one of you, I would. I miss you.
That's it, right? And we miss you too. We miss everyone out there. I'm looking forward to the days when we don't necessarily have to be doing this, but for now, I appreciate all your work. Cami, I know how much of a restraint this takes to maintain that distance, but thank you for living out that call to make sure that everyone else knows that love and knows that life by keeping them safe right now. So well done, and well done to y'all as well. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. And like I said, keep your eyes peeled this week. We should have one of these every day for the rest of the week, Monday through Friday. So tune back in, check them out, and stay in touch and stay community. Bye for now. God's blessings and peace. Cami, would you like to sign off?
Oh, peace out.
Peace out. Peace out. Bye.